Greetings, greetings, beautiful being. Welcome to Movement Medicine Morsel. Today, we're doing part 2 of Pawan Muktasana, which is a yogic technique for freeing, literally freeing the energy in the joints. So freeing our vitality, working out any stiffness, and also essentially lubrication. The joints have their natural lubrication. We're often stiff in the mornings when we wake up because we've been more or less stable, immobile during the night. And once we start moving, we start lubricating, releasing those fluids, and bringing that moisture to the different joint surfaces. And when we add mindfulness to this, it enhances the freeing aspects. So today we're going to be looking at briefly through the spine and focusing on the lower body, because in yesterday's episode we focused on the upper body and the arms, the neck, and the upper back. So you can put these two little episodes together, or you can use one to focus on the area that you want a little bit more support for. So for the spine, let's bring ourselves into vertical alignment. And you can do this seated or standing. When we come to the lower body, I'm going to invite you to stand. So as always, we want to bring ourselves into the right mood. We want to feel and acknowledge whatever's been happening up till now, accept that, and then gently allow it to dissolve or fade into the background as we arrive into this moment, and we leave some openness. We leave some openness for something new to happen. And we also look to our physical position, rooting the lower body, feeling the feet, feeling the tailbone and the sit bones, and from that base allowing a lightness and a lift to rise through the spine and the core of the body. And just to keep the shoulders quiet, let's inhale and raise them up. And exhale with a sigh, let them lower smoothly and really let them rest and fall at the bottom. Feel them in their rightful place on the rib cage. So we've already been experiencing the first position of the spine, which is axial extension, or think of it as decompression for all the joints of the vertebrae, as opposed to compression, which is when gravity just pulls us down. It can happen when we're sad, depressed, or if we're unaware of our bodies and time on this planet, aka aging, is exacerbating that compression. Now, we don't have to get stiff as a matter of course for aging. We can remind ourselves that the openness and spaciousness between the joints, which is also part of Pawan Muktasana, is available to us. So axial extension creates a lovely elongation through the spine. And let's find our breath. Let's rest our hands on our low belly today. And as we inhale, let's feel the expansion of our belly, especially the area below our hands. And as we exhale, let's feel the releasing, the letting go. And just continue your breath as you continue your sensation and cultivation of vertical alignment. And place a soft smile on your lips. The playfulness, the positive energy, and also the maybe a little bit of excitement, the feeling of like we can learn something new. It's always possible to be fresh and new. So now we're going to move into gently the other 4 movements of the spine, and all of them are anchored by this beautiful elongation. So as we exhale, let the small of the waist move back and allow the whole spine to curve with this. As we inhale, let the small of the waist come forward and let the whole front of the body lengthen. You can be doing this sitting on a chair. If you are standing, I recommend you bend your knees a little bit. And we're working with the waistline and feeling how that tips the pelvis below and moves the upper body above. And maybe your shoulders are coming in. Remember that whenever we move one part of the body, every other part is involved. And let this all feel very pleasurable. Let there be ease. You're not going for your biggest movement or trying to produce anything or hit a goal. You're enjoying the methodology. It's about the journey. It's about how we do things more than what we do. Although we want to make sure that we're feeding our physical body a nice variety of movements every day. And let's let this come to a close. Return to your vertical alignment. We've covered 3 movements. What are the other movements? There's twisting. So moving, think of your belly button moving. And if you like, you can let your head and neck go with the movement. Exhaling, you're rotating comfortably. Inhaling, centering. All the while nice and tall. And if you prefer to leave your head facing forward, actually let's all do that at least a few times, because this gives a different experience for the neck. We often initiate a lot of our movements with our eyes and our head. So here we are feeling into the torso from the shoulders down and twisting. And then if you like, whichever is your favorite, maybe add a few more that include the head and the gaze. And that's a little bit of rotation. And maybe you feel it's easier to one side than the other, so that gives us information too. And let that relax. And for the side body, we're going to do something that includes the armpit moving towards the hip. So sitting or standing tall, inhale, and exhale, let one armpit slide towards the hip, that arm lengthens, and your head just tips naturally. And inhale, come up. Let's do that side one more time. Exhale, we're shortening. This is lateral flexion. And what do you feel on that opposite side? Is there something opening up here? And let's do it one more time. And you can choose to feel the shortening side, the lengthening side, or both. And come back up and just notice how that feels. And maybe notice how your breath is. Let's do the other side. Exhale. The other armpit moves towards the hip, and inhale comes up. And let's do that again. And maybe you want to focus on the shortening side or maybe the lengthening side. And let's do one more. About 3. And then gently relax, move around a little bit, see how that feels. And notice what is your awareness from the crown of your head down to your tailbone, including your whole trunk. So now I'm going to invite you to stand up. You can also be creative and modify this for sitting, but it's also nice, even if standing is difficult for us, to have at least a little bit, like a minute of standing, 2 minutes of standing, and to make everything that we do as comfortable as possible so that we have a really positive memory of our movements. If we're accustomed to living with chronic pain, the pain and the discomfort is really etched into our consciousness so that we actually expect the next bout of pain. So in yoga, we're also looking at, can we get to that clear, empty spot that's full of potential where we're open and maybe something new and different is going to happen? How can we move in a way that doesn't initiate the mind to expect pain or the body to fulfill that prophecy? So in this way, we come with an open, fresh mind. We do the movement with awareness, and maybe it's minute or maybe it's just visualized. And we find the place where we create sweetness and we remember the sweetness, and that will build up a charge of healing energy. So we'll come to stand. I think you can see my feet here. I've put on some colorful socks so you can feel my feet. And once again, we arrive in our vertical alignment, and maybe our spine feels a little bit prompt already to have fun with this. And we're going to start working with the knee, which is a hinge joint. So I'd like you to stand with the working foot a little bit behind you, just in a small parallel stance so that you have that heel down. And then on the inhale, we lift the heel so the knee bends, and exhale, we press the heel down. Now we want the upper body to be floating tall You can have your hands on your hips or arms by your sides, and take your time to feel this. Inhale, the heel comes up. Exhale, the heel presses down. What do you feel in your foot? And what might you feel in your knee or maybe your calf? Or maybe you can even track the movement up into the hip. So we're working with composite joint freeing today. We can work with each joint individually, and that's really helpful when we have an injury. I'm putting together a number of them. I call that composite joint freeing because we don't have a lot of time. We're together for a short period of time, and we want to make our time efficient. So just take a little walk. Has that given you some new information in your hip, knee, calf, and or foot? Notice if there's a difference between this side and the side that hasn't had its opportunity yet. And let's set ourselves up, let that register, see how that feels. Bring yourself to your vertical alignment, and the second foot steps behind a little bit, just in a comfortable parallel stance, so that you register the heel pressing down, the back knee straightening, and you're not collapsing and just doing the lower leg. You're bringing forward what you've learned about the spine. Inhale, the heel lifts, the knee comes forward. Exhale, we consciously press the heel down. And for me, I'm noticing that's my big toe that has a little bit of rigidity to it. So that makes me go into more awareness and more kindness. I used to be really mad at that toe because it got in the way of what I thought I should be doing. But as I'm gentler with that big toe, there, I'm settling into being a little bit kinder and just listening to it, it melts a little bit more. And I find a place where the movement is free instead of reminding myself of how I wish things were different. And feel that stretch in the calf and see if you can track it into the hip. Let's maybe do one more. And then just let that be, reach the heel down, go for a little walk. And walking backwards is a fabulous exercise for balancing hips, feet, knees, lower back, so you can include a little bit of backward walking. And we're going to do a little bit more for the hips now. We're going to begin with a similar position. So we already began with one foot in front, one behind. Bring the first foot behind and lift it up. We'll bring it beside the other foot for this exercise. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of warm-up from belly dancing, because actually belly dance technique is a fountain of composite joint freeing exercises that we often don't get in our Western life. So we've already done some work with the heel going up and down. Now I want you to think of circling the ankle. So the ball of the foot and the toes pretty much stay on the floor. And we're circling the ankle, and we're letting the knee paint a circle, and we're letting the hip paint its own half circle. So one hip is going with the knee and with the ankle. You're basically initiating from the foot and the lower leg, but you're allowing the rest of yourself to do whatever it wants to do so that the whole of you is affected. And let's circle in the opposite direction. And remember, comfort, ease, and vertical alignment are key, because that helps us from compressing and injuring, and maybe you're finding a way to get a really nice massage. Maybe your shoulders even want to wiggle or play. And let that go. Shake it out a little bit. Take a little walk. Take a little feel into how you are. Maybe do a little something. See how the two hips feel. One hip has had a chance to play. The other one also was doing something, but the spotlight was on one hip. Let's put the spotlight on the second hip. First our vertical alignment, then lifting the heel. The toes stay on the floor. Hands can be on the hips, or you can do anything that you like with your arms. And zip up your vertical alignment and begin to circle, massaging the toes, letting the ankle paint a circle, letting the knee draw a circle, and allowing the hip track the movement all the way up the body, however it wants to go. And if that movement wants to continue up the spine and into the neck, well, you just close your eyes and let yourself enjoy this. And circle in the opposite direction. Of course, I haven't mentioned breathing, but just keep breathing. And maybe these movements are going to have a lovely effect on opening up your breath. Okay, let's let that come to a finish. Maybe shake that leg out, see how that feels. And one more little exercise. If you remember when we were seated, we did the slide of the armpit down. So now we're going to lift the bottom hip up to the armpit. And we're going to do this by keeping the knee straight and just lifting the heel. Before we lifted the heel and we let the knee bend, we're going to keep the knee straight. And if you lift the heel, look what happens. That hip comes up a little bit, and then we let all of the waistline relax and the heel come down. Inhale, lift. Maybe that armpit wants to lower as well. And exhale, release down. See if you can feel this right at the waist. The lengthening as you lower the heel down. The shortening of the waist as you lift up. You can even have your hand on your waist to feel that. Let's do that on the other side. Let's all put the hand on the waist. You can do this seated in a chair as well. You would be lifting that sit bone off the chair and maybe lifting the heel as well on the floor if that helps you. So the knee stays straight if you're standing. The knee would be bent when you're seated. And you're raising the sit bone up. And you can lift it on the exhale or the inhale, but really take your time in the lowering. See if you can feel that whole side releasing. Good. Now just for fun, let's do back and forth. Lift one hip, lower it. Lift the other hip, lower it. You can have your hands out to the sides to balance you a little bit. And if you want your armpit to move with it too, so just having a little bit of fun here. And we'll finish with a hip circle, a pelvic circle. So we want to think of this whole pelvic region as one unit. You can place your hands on your hips. You can place your hands on your sacrum for some support. And you can have your knees bent or straight for this one. And really feel into your pelvis. In fact, let's pause for a moment and breathe. Direct our breath and our awareness into our pelvis area. Feel the whole area like a ball or sphere of energy. And once you feel that connection, now start circling the whole thing. And remember, this circle can be whatever size or shape gives you sense of ease and leaves you with a happy memory. Make sure you get that lovely stretch in the front of the groin area when you come through. And if you're bending your knees, it changes the experience a little bit. It gets you perhaps a little bit more involved with your knees and your feet and how your feet are connecting the ground to the ground. But it's up to you, whatever feels good to you. And then circle at least a few times to balance in the opposite direction. And let these last circles get a little bit smaller. Bring yourself to your vertical alignment or your yoga mountain pose and just see how you feel. Maybe take a few steps around, suspended by your bungee cord. Let your arms swing gently. And notice how things feel. Maybe you want to try a movement or two, or a balance, or a deeper lunge. How do your hips feel? Do they feel ready for action and danger, or for a dance party? Or maybe you feel refreshed so that more of yourself is available for whatever you need to do and want to accomplish today. So let's do one last stretch. Bend the knees, exhale. Inhale, rise up inside, reach up, interlace the fingers and press up. Get that beautiful axial extension. And exhale, release the hands and paint a giant halo of light and love and freedom all the way around yourself. And let your hands finish resting on your low belly so you remember your body and don't just get caught up in your thinking mind. And continue to breathe into your pelvic palace. And notice how you feel. How do your legs, hips feel? How does your spine feel? And most importantly, how do you feel? The composite of everything that is you. Body, mind, emotions, thoughts. Many blessings. Please drop me a line if you felt that this was helpful. And my hips feel happier, so they thank you. And we'll see you next time. Many blessings.